This is the Fluid Jobs podcast, where motorsport professionals share their journeys and offer actionable advice for breaking into and advancing in the competitive world of motorsport. On today's podcast, I speak with Martin Hill, founder of Race Technology, a company that designs and manufactures testing and scrutineering systems for race cars. If you're an aspiring software or electrical engineer with dreams of a motorsport career, this episode is a must listen for tips on breaking into a company like Race Technology. Hi Martin, and thank you very much for joining me today. You're from a company called Race Technology. So can you tell me what Race Technology does and what your role within it is?
Yes, certainly. The company started almost 25 years ago now. We started off in racing industry. We saw a product we thought wasn't particularly good, thought we could do better. So we developed one, started selling it, which was for basically doing drag racing timing. We then moved into data logging work, and we started doing dashboards for vehicles. So our main work in the automotive section is to do with data logging, vehicle instrumentation, and a large part of our work now is with the big OEM manufacturers. So we supply the likes of Ford, Bosch, Porsche with brake testing equipment for doing high accuracy brake testing. And another big part on the motorsport side is for scrutineering systems. So we're involved in around 22, 23 championships around the world, pretty much everywhere except Australia, where our systems are used for data logging during racing so that the scrutineers are checking power levels, things like injection timing, cam timing, to make sure that people are complying with the rules. So we are designing, manufacturing, selling the equipment for doing those applications. We also have some applications outside of motorsport and automotive to do with safety systems. So we're quite diverse. We've not got all our eggs in one basket, because from a small company point of view, that's never a good idea. My role in the company, I'm one of the founders of the company. I founded the company with a friend of mine, Andy Durant, when we were at Nottingham University doing our PhDs together. And my main job in the company is looking after specific products, so project management for a lot of different products. And I also work with our distributors. And so I'll be the one going over to trade shows, talking to customers, doing custom projects for people. So we're a quite small company. There are fewer than 20 of us in total. So different people. It's not many people have one specific job that they're just doing that all the time. So it's quite varied. And nice thing with being in a small company, you really feel like you've got some input to it. Everyone can see what their effect on the company is. It's not like you're the person who does the screw that holds the door handle on a car or something. It's it's a nice job.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned like working in the automotive space, making like precision data logging. Are the manufacturers using your equipment to kind of certify whether they've improved the braking distance of a particular car down to the millimeter? Is that what they're using it for?
A lot of it is for that. It's also, so one of the systems we do is used for brake testing, where typically for a brake test from 100 kilometers per hour down to zero, well, they test down to 2 actually, but typically you get 2 to 3 centimeters accuracy. And they're looking for that because you need very high accuracy, because if you're looking for a change of a few centimeters in your brake testing, then if you've got variability in your measurement, then that's not going to work out. So it's used for that, but also for chassis dynamics testing. We can do roll, pitch and yaw rates and angles. Also for lap timing, Porsche use it around the Nürburgring for some of their lap time events. So we've seen our displays used on some of their systems when they're setting lap records. They're using it for the timing for that. So a wide variety of things.
Fantastic. And so in terms of the kind of makeup of the team and the roles that you have within the team, what does that look like for Race Technology?
Well, I've explained my role. Andy, the other main director, he tends to look after all of the software in the system. So he's in control of looking after the web software, the firmware that goes inside the units, and also does some of the project management. We have a couple of people who are looking after the scrutineering side of things. So they tend to be doing a lot of the traveling, running the systems, putting them in vehicles. And then we have the production area where we've got a few people who are basically putting the units together. So we have most of the components are built within the UK, so they'll come in as a completed PCB and enclosure and things, and we've got to screw things together, test them, and then we have some other people who are doing software engineering, so they're developing the firmware, the web software, and a lot of testing of that. In terms of the engineering side, it's quite heavy on the software side of things, because there are more different aspects on that, not so much on the electronics. There's not so many people on that, but we're needing more on production at the moment. That's an area that we're looking to recruit in right now, just because we're making more bits of equipment, so we need more people to screw things into boxes. But it's not just a question of can you hold a screwdriver, because as complex bits of equipment, there's programming of the units, there's the testing, there's calibration, and then there's the sort of general office things like packing things into boxes, sorting invoices and accounts out. So we have there's one person who does a lot of that.
Okay, so from the actual kind of product production, that seems like hardware. Putting that hardware, does that turn into hardware design, putting the hardware together, and then software development, or am I oversimplifying?
Yes, in terms of the development process, usually we'll have an idea for a product, or we'll be approached by somebody, because we do custom design work. Some of our products are modified for specific customers. They might want a different enclosure, different connectors, some custom functionality. So firstly, we'll come up with a specification for the job. So what has the hardware got to do? What are the inputs? What are the outputs? And then what has the software got to do? What data has it got to record? What's it got to output? Where are we logging things? We're doing a lot more cloud-based work now. So is it storing data onto a cloud, remote data access? And then the hardware side will go down the side of the electronics design, where typically, my background is electronics engineering. So I still do a lot of the sort of top level electronics design. Then we have one main engineer who will do the detailed electronics design. He's designing the circuit, designing the PCB. Then we have another guy who designs the enclosures, does all the mechanical design. So they obviously have to work together. So you make sure the PCB is the right shape to fit inside the box, that kind of thing. And the design of the enclosures is very important depending on how it's going to be manufactured. So if it's being die cast, there's certain things you have to do for things like draw angles. If you're doing 3D printing, which we're doing more of now for smaller manufacturing parts, then you have much more freedom. So we've got someone else who does that. And then the software and firmware side tends to run in parallel with that. So you've got kind of two streams going on together. So the software people, they might be starting with a development kit. So we might have an early prototype of the system that we've made, or we might be using dev boards that we've bought in. So they've got some hardware that won't look like the real thing at all, but in terms of the inputs and outputs and the processor, it's close enough that they can start the development. And then towards the end, we bring it all together. We'll then have basically a functional test where we have a big test spreadsheet where we go through all the functionality that's in the specification, check that it does everything that we need. And then that will go out to the customer, and then all the details will be done for the website and data sheets, website updates, details for distributors, that kind of thing. So that's the kind of development process.
And they all sound like very technical roles. When you're hiring for those positions, do they all require a university education?
No, it does vary. One thing we've been doing in the last few years is taking on more degree apprentices. So the way this system works is people will do their A-levels, and then instead of applying just to a university, they apply to do a degree apprenticeship. So if they apply to us, we've just been doing a round of interviews recently. They will send us their CV, which will have their predicted A-level grades on and a bit of background about what they're interested in. And then instead of going to university and spending £10,000 a year on their degree fees, plus living expenses and everything, they'll basically spend a short time at university, and then they're basically working with us. So they're learning through doing working. So they're not paying their fees. They are getting a degree at the end of it and 3 years experience. So it works very well for them. And we do have a range of jobs within there. So we have to be pushing people slowly forwards all of the time. So when they're coming in the first year, they'll be doing the simpler jobs and learning. But particularly with the software engineers that we're having in, this is an important aspect. If people are looking to do a job in software, so we've had a couple of guys who were working for us now, when they're applying on their CVs, they're having not just computer science and things like that at university. Their hobbies are related. So you can see if they're spending their time writing websites and writing their own computer games, which they're doing for fun, they just live and breathe software. And they're the people that we're taking on they're good. They're already good. And then we're helping them and teaching them to get better and to learn more about things like making sure that it doesn't just kind of work, it works properly and is tested under all scenarios, that kind of thing. It's just the same on the the electronic side. With when I was a kid, I just had on my head a soldering iron, constantly building things, making things, and that's the kind of people we're looking at. So I would say if you're trying to get a job in this, so if we were looking for someone for doing the scrutineering, because that's a business that's expanding at the moment. So if someone was looking to apply to work where it's more hands-on, if it's somebody who has a real interest in it, they don't need to know our products, obviously, be taught on the product. But if they've got a real enthusiasm for working with cars, that kind of thing, that stands them in really good stead, because it's not just an academic thing. It's more about the personality and what drives them and what their ambition is.
Sure. Couple of questions from all of that. Well, first of all, one of the key things that I'm learning from doing these podcasts, and it's something that I use to hire as well, so it's nice for me to understand that I was hiring in the right way as well, is that it's not just about the skills, it's actually more about the fact that the person is going to do that thing in their spare time as a hobby anyway, no matter whether it's software or hardware or whatever the role is. Content creation even, that they're going to do that in the spare time. And it seems that most people agree it's because it shows the willingness to go and do it and the mentality that they're just loving that, that aspect of building a skill set as well.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we had people who, if you look at their CVs, and some of them might be straight A or straight A star students, but when you talk to them, you realise that they're just not the right person for the job. Academically, they can be absolutely superb. So I think it means that if you are applying for something, if your grades aren't that brilliant, but you've got the enthusiasm, you've got the drive for it, then go for it, because I think a lot of people will, when looking to employ people, be taking on this similar view. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, you mentioned the apprenticeship side of things there. How exactly does that work? Is that do you list the apprenticeships on your website or through some other format? And then, candidates apply through that, just like a normal job listing?
To be honest, I don't actually do the adverts for it, so I'm not exactly sure how it works. But I do know that a lot more people are going for that these days, just because it makes the difference of coming out of university with £50,000-60,000 of debt, or coming out with no debt and 3 years experience.
Sure.
But I know we do some advertising through job advert websites like LinkedIn and things like that. But I'm honestly sorry, I'm not sure on that, because that's
no, it's not really the specifics. It's just whether it's kind of listed in the same way that a job would be, which I think the answer is probably yes.
Well, certainly just speaking from my experience, when I applied for my PhD at Nottingham University, which is admittedly a long time ago now, that was just from a job advert which my dad had seen in the local Evening Post. And my job interview with the professor there, I mean, my first degree was in electronic engineering, and I was applying for a PhD in mechanical engineering. And I got no qualifications in mechanical engineering, and I was going along to do a PhD. And we just sat and talked for about 3/4 of an hour about all the stuff I did playing around with cars with my dad. How I'd learned about how I bought a car, and would rebuild engines and take things apart and modify things. And clearly I was in the mechanical. This was in engine control system, so it was all about engines. So yeah, we didn't really talk about any academic work at all. It was kind of strange. We finished, and I was thinking, well, when's the interview start then? This is just a bit of a chat, but it works out because it's about the enthusiasm and the drive for the job.
Exactly. I think if you show that you can learn on the job and that you're already doing those types of things, then that's much more important, isn't it, than having the academic background. So I think we've probably kind of covered it. The questions that I'm going to ask now, but how on like a CV or during the application process, how do you think candidates can particularly stand out in that area? Because obviously, you get 50 or 100 applicants for a particular role. It's quite difficult to stand out in that pile.
Well, something I'd noticed from reviewing a bunch of CVs recently is they felt very formulaic. So obviously you have the section where you've got about your academic qualifications. That's very similar, your background. Any kind of work experience is a nice thing to have. I think also any kind of volunteering. So anything that shows good work ethic, that's really nice. Although we do also appreciate that not everyone wants to work. If you're concentrating on your A levels, then you need to be doing the time for that. So there is a balance there. But what I did notice when reading a bit about the personal statement, quite a few of the people who were writing more about our company than about themselves. They were saying about how race technology is doing all of this work in motorsport and engineering and bringing out all these new products. And we're thinking, well, we know that. Tell us about yourself. And it was as if they were trying to show that they've researched the company and that they know a bit about the company, and how then they're saying how their skills will fit in. And some of them, they didn't. So I would just say, talk about the things for yourself that are relevant, and talk about yourself, not about, it's good to know obviously a bit about what the company does, but don't try to tell the company what they do. And if I'd read that on one and thought, oh, that's a bit strange, but it wasn't. It was on lots of them. It's almost as if they're being told that that's what they're supposed to do. And I wasn't the only one who picked it up on reading the personal statements. But
no, because a personal statement should be personal, right? You want to be learning about them and what they're doing.
Absolutely. So yes, we did think that a bit odd. So yeah, just keep it about yourself. Keep it. If you're applying for a job where you've got a lot of relevant things, talk about the relevant things. It seems everyone does taekwondo and plays football and things like that, which is nice to have in there. It's good to see that you're a well-rounded person. But from us, we're basically a bunch of engineering geeks who like making products. So we're interested in, if you're staying up till 2:00 every morning because you're designing some new server that you've been working on for the last 6 months, that's the real interesting stuff for us.
Yeah. And I think that's the point, right? It's with like that kind of personal section of the CV, or when you're talking about yourself in the interview, you have to have made yourself interesting, right? And then that has to fit with the role that you're going for. And that's not saying that you should change what you do depending on the role that you're going for. It means that you should actually figure out what you enjoy doing and what you're doing as hobbies. Go and do that because it's fun, and then apply for jobs in that area.
Yes, absolutely. Do something that you enjoy, because say some of the people who we had applying thought, why are you applying? You don't know what you want to do. You've got no path to go down. And for some people, I understand, because we are, if we're talking of degree apprentices, we're talking people who are just doing their A levels now. So we're talking 17, 18-year-olds. And at that age, not everybody does have a fixed idea of what they want to do. And I kind of feel for people who are in that situation, because it is then much more difficult. It can be difficult if you don't really know, to put relevant experience.
Yeah, I guess this is going off on a bit of a tangent actually. But when I was younger, like I made a really bad decision when I did well at school, but I really enjoyed making things. I'd been racing go-karts, so I was lucky enough to do that. I enjoyed working on them and the engineering and fixing them, and I enjoyed like designing technology. I enjoyed business. I enjoyed like doing things and getting things started. And what I didn't enjoy was doing loads and loads of reading and sitting there quietly. And so I chose to do law at university, which was a stupid decision. Anyway, I lasted 2 months. I went and tested with Red Bull. And anyway, just thought university isn't the right thing to do. But
And
if someone had said to me at that point, look at what you actually enjoy doing. I enjoyed making stuff. I was playing with Lego and all that Meccano and karting and all of that type of stuff. And I enjoyed like the fastness of like researching businesses and things like that. I should have gone and done that thing. Like the advice at that point wasn't there for me. But where I'm leading with this is, you say, maybe at 16 years old, you're not conscious of what you want to do, but the breadcrumbs are there. I would say it's like, are you enjoying making things? Are you enjoying reading, or whatever you're doing as a kid? Like that is a big indication, I believe.
Yes, and I do think there's also some advice. I mean, I know some people who are photographers and into photography, and they got into that because they did photography as a hobby. But then when you become a professional photographer, it takes away the whole hobby element, and you probably cease to enjoy it because you're doing it for a very different thing. But I don't do as much electronics design for my hobby things as I used to do. So there is a bit of an element to that, but I still certainly really enjoy the work I'm doing because there's constantly engineering challenges. You're making interesting products, meeting interesting people, and there's some nice traveling involved as well in my particular part. So I get to go and see some nice bits of the world, and it's constantly changing and evolving. So it's I certainly wouldn't, this idea that if you take your hobby, turn it into a job, you stop enjoying it. That it's, for some things, probably true, but certainly not always.
No, exactly. This is perfect. It's all a balance, right? Like you say, then you're traveling, but you're probably not traveling all of the time, and it's just a fine balance of all these different things that you're eventually looking for. And I know, as I've got older, I've started to understand exactly what parts of that I want to do. Right? It takes a little while to understand, I suppose. Well, it did for me at least.
Yes.
So moving on from the application process, then through to the interviews. What does a great interview look like to you?
It's all, for me, it's really about balance. I mean, a lot of people, clearly people are nervous at interviews. Everyone's nervous at an interview. So obviously you try to be relaxed. Some people are very, very quiet. Some people just go on and you can't get a word in edgeways, but it's kind of tricky to be balanced, but it sounds like a cliche, but just try and be relaxed and be yourself. If you don't know something, say you don't know something. It's not an exam. It's about getting to know the person, and just take it easy. I mean, we tend to put some actual questions and tests in our interviews because we think from looking at just the academic qualifications, you can't always tell what people are like. So if someone's applying for an electronics job, we'll put like some quiz questions in, and it tries to be done in a very relaxed way. But I'm really not sure the best advice other than just try to relax, try to be yourself. Don't be late, don't be early, look smart. No, just the standard stuff, really. I don't think there's any particular magic in that.
Oh, there we go. I'm just going to mark that, Martin, because it just froze on my side. So apologies for that.
I didn't catch you there. Yeah,
don't know who it was. Yeah. And I think going back to like being relaxed, that's quite, it's quite easy advice to give. But for me, that looks like, at least from my own personal experience, when I'm more prepared and when I know that kind of area better, I just feel more relaxed because I'm well prepared. I don't feel like I'm going to be on the wrong foot or anything like that. So I think a lot of that, again, might come down to preparing, doing the work beforehand, actually going after the jobs that you really want to go after, that you naturally know about anyway.
Yes, be enthusiastic, be prepared, and it's probably one of these things. If you get the opportunity to do multiple interviews, if you've got a lot of jobs that you're wanting to that you might consider, um, and it seems like a bit of a tangent, but I do quite a lot of presentations at trade shows and things like that. And when you start doing them, you're all really nervous about it because you're not used to it. You're going to stand in front of lots of people and talk about things. But by the time you've done it 50 times, you're very, very relaxed. And if you're lining up some interviews, if it's your first job interview and it's the one you really want to do and it's so important to you, you'd probably feel more relaxed if you'd done 3 or 4 other job interviews. By doing a job interview, usually you're not committing to anything. If you're lucky and you're successful, they'll offer you a job at the end of it, but you're under no obligation to take it. So if you've got the time and the ability to, I would say probably just try and get some experience. Like everything in life, it's better if you can have some experience. The more experience you get, the easier it will get. So particularly if you struggle with things like interviews, because some people are just terrible at that kind of thing, just practice, get some practice.
Yeah, definitely. Repetition helps you build that skill, doesn't it? Even with like me filming videos or doing podcasts like this, it just becomes much, much easier because you do the same thing 50 times. It's very difficult to be bad at it. Great advice. So Martin, I guess just to finish things up, with all the experience that you have and working with many different people, what's the single kind of biggest piece of advice that you would offer candidates who are looking for a role in motorsport?
I guess really it's probably follow your passion, apply for jobs, go to companies. If you see a company you want to work for that you think will be good, just write to them, apply. You don't, even if they're not saying they're looking for anything, just get in touch, see if they've got anything available, learn about the companies, learn about the people. There are a lot of companies in motorsport. There's such a diverse area. So just go after it. I mean, we started our own company. We didn't apply to anyone else. It's always an option. If you've got the passion for it, try it for yourself. You might be successful.
Fantastic, Martin. So if people want to find out more about race technology, where should we send them?
They can look up race technology on the internet, go to our website, www.race-technology.com. There's more information about all of our products on there, about all the different the different areas that we work on. So go on there, and if you think you might fit in with our company and you're enthusiastic and hardworking, give us a shout. You never know. We might, if you're the right person. I think with a lot of companies, if someone looks like a great applicant, they're keen to work for you, even if they're not advertising for a job, they might think, this person's worth a look. See what we can do.
That's a great piece of advice, actually. I think that's something that people don't really talk about too much, and something that we've done. If someone's the right person, you find something where they can fit, because especially in a smaller company, I think. Because you don't want to let that person go.
Yeah, we did that ourselves years ago. We took on somebody that we just met when we were doing something completely unrelated to work, and it was someone we met, thought this person's got really some really good skills, and we'll see if we can find a role for them.
And it worked out well
for a bit.
Well, Martin, maybe I'll cut that last bit out. Let me just finish up. Okay, Martin, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it, and speak to you soon.
No problem. Thanks a lot, Scott.